Oh, here you go. 2009 is when I was in. 2001. Oh yeah, look at here. Brought me a little history book, huh?
Were you there for that?
Probably not. No, probably not. Oh, nice.
I'll open the meeting at 6:30. If you'd all stand for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I did that too. Roll call, please.
Cullis,
Yes?
Winchester,
Here.
Freeman,
Here.
Burton,
Here.
Ruth.
Here.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion for agenda approval.
So moved.
Moved by Winchester. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Burton. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now the consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial. They do not require discussion by the Township Board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will automatically be moved to the last item under new business. Motion, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Winchester. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Treasurer Freeman. Roll call, please.
Freeman,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Cullis,
Yes.
Winchester.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Public hearings, we have none. Presentation, we have none. Reports, we will start with Trustee Burton.
Okay, so my report, we met at the Planning Commission earlier this month in regards to Shannon distribution and fasteners. They had requested a special land use, which was approved, as well as their expansion. There were a couple things that we had discussed that we would like to see happen. I know that they had mentioned they would be replacing all of the trees of which they, need to take down for the building of the facility. That the roadway that will be coming in to the facility, like the emergency drive, it is requested that that be covered with grass, like a gravel and then a grass overlay. And I know we also discussed, as development continues on Dixie Highway, then putting in a sidewalk, potentially when that time comes. So that is regarding Shannon. I wanted to give an update. I got this Township Focus magazine. I was looking at it. I know I had talked a couple months ago on the revenue loss possibility for the ARPA funds. And I just wanted to let everyone know that there is a calculator that is available on the MTA's website as well as the Treasury's ARPA page. And they have some setups. It does say that we have heard from many townships that they do not believe they were financially impacted by the pandemic. MTA and the state treasury are urging all townships to run the revenue loss calculator as a way in which the formula is structured, that at least some or most municipalities will have at least some loss. And what that would do is then free up those funds to be used this year for township needs, and would become unrestricted at that point in time. So that's all I have.
So did you run the calculation?
I have not opened it. No, I've just read this earlier today.
Is that it?
Yes.
Trustee Ruth.
Nothing for me?
Okay. Treasurer Freeman.
No report.
Clerk Winchester.
No report.
Okay. As the supervisor's report, just to add to what Trustee Burton said, we still have not heard or received the money from the state. The last meeting that I was in, they are still trying to determine how we can spend it. So we have yet to get any of that communication down at this level. So two things in the supervisor's report. I passed out a paper to you. The company that received the bid, or that won the bid for the back wall of the barn, turned in a timeline for the construction. That contract's been signed, and it's my understanding that the gentlemen that are going to be working on the doors on the front of the barn will start their project on Saturday. So that's where we are on that. Then next, we received a request by Mary Blanchard to have some questions put on the agenda. Agenda items are items that require board action, and these items were not items that this board has jurisdiction over. I did, however, submit them to our attorney, Chuck Barbieri, who has been overseeing the Holly dump and works in connection with Sarah Gabbis on the Holly Hills Mobile Home Park, and he supplied us with this response to the request. And I will read it for the record. I've already given a copy to Nicole for the minutes. It says, regarding agenda item, former Falk Road landfill, Holly, Michigan, Holly Hills Mobile Home Park. As you know, I have received environmental issues along Falk Road over the past 20 months for the township. You have asked whether the township should take up these 3 issues recently identified by a township resident. In my view, the township has limited control over the issues raised. It would have little ability to act on the issues that the resident wants to discuss. As a practical matter, the township's control over the mobile home development has been limited over time due to a historical consent decree and the fact that the State Mobile Home Commission has approved the development's plans. The township, however, has raised concerns where appropriate with the State Mobile Home Commission, and it has communicated with the state agencies like Eagle and local agencies like the local county health department, whose authority and jurisdiction over the issues being raised are more direct. Issues concerning the water supply system, forms, and past wastewater treatment violations are matters that are best suited for the consideration by Eagle. That is also true in the terms of the former landfill, as Eagle has pressed and worked with the Village of Holly to look at landfill contamination issues. In my view, Senator Ruth Johnson's oversight on Eagle has been instrumental in having Eagle look at the Falk Road concerns. Any continuing concerns about flooding, stormwater runoff for the landfill are logically within Eagle's purview as well. I am not convinced that Eagle has ignored or will ignore these issues. The issues being raised are best reviewed by Eagle and other regulatory agencies which have the direct authority and jurisdiction to act on these issues. In my legal opinion, the township does not have the basis legally or factually to control and act on these matters to seek legal relief. And that's signed Charles Barbieri. The township has taken these matters seriously since November of 2019 when it came to us. Mr. Barbieri had an opportunity to go to the home of Stacy Taylor and gather information that he felt was relevant, and from that we issued the letter to the village. The village moved forward and initially appropriated funds. I'm not sure exactly where that ended up. I think it was in the $15,000 range in the beginning, and Eagle has recently sent a report to the village, and last night at the village council meeting, the council approved a contract fulfilling the request of Eagle to the tune of $22,000 that they will be executing over the next several months. So they are doing the work that's there. I did want to mention that we have been very cognizant of the papers and the reports that were turned in. We've passed them along for review, both to Mr. Barbieri and Sarah Gabbis, depending on which pertain to who. And for the record, the township has spent over, well, now with this newest figure added, The township has spent over $12,000 in attorney fees reviewing these papers to navigate what we had authority over and what we didn't have authority. And we have taken action in the areas that we had authority over. The biggest one would be the Bladder House that was not being built. They already were ready to put in 19 homes, and they did not have the Bladder House built. For those of you that don't know, the Bladder House is kind of like a water tower, and it stores water above ground so that it gives them added water pressure for fire suppression. So they have to build that before they bring in the homes. We stopped them from doing it. They actually had one home delivered, which we made them take off the property. I noticed it ended up over on Dixie Highway at one of their other parks. So we have taken all of the action we can take. We've had to monitor because, as you know, or if you don't know, back in, was it 1991 that the consent agreement was signed in court?
I don't remember the exact.
It was in the early 90s, somewhere between 91 and 94. And that consent agreement, unfortunately, uses two words that are very, they painted with a very broad brush. It says we're not allowed to interfere or obstruct. And we have to be careful in any action we take so that we don't end ourselves up in court with that. So I wanted to report on that. That's why it's not on the agenda this evening. I gave you the report on the barn, and we have yet to find a qualified contractor for the work that's needed on the township hall. We've had several people out there. As government goes, you have to be bonded, you have to have workman's comp, you have to have all these things in line, and to this date we have one bid that has been submitted. We had a couple of other companies come out and look at it. One of them said he didn't want the job. We're still working on getting the necessary bids to bring it to the board. So that completes my report. Public comment on agenda items only. Members of the public can address the board on agenda items only, once recognized by the supervisor. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. A second public comment is available after the new business for all other comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Are there any comments at this time?
They talked about the trailer. You want to talk about that?
It's not on the agenda.
All right. Then we have no old business. We will move to new business, which are the township properties. We have several properties that are owned by the township. Some of them were received through tax sales. Mr. Freeman, you want to fill him in on the, there was a property behind, there was a purchase made on the Strigo property, which was an investment, but the property behind it was another 50
The
acres.
Thornton property was purchased first
Oh, that's
through a tax sale,
through a tax sale.
tax forfeiture it's called.
Okay.
And then the Strigo property became available, and it shares a contiguous property line with the Thornton properties. So then we did purchase that, and we combined them into one large parcel. Initially, we considered it as possibly a better location for a possible new township hall in the future, but with the large grant we just received, is it actually a grant or not?
No, it's a gift.
It's a gift for the farmstead, which includes a site for a new township hall in the future. It's less likely that we would now use that property.
Okay. So these things were put on the agenda because we do own some other properties that the township gained through tax forfeitures, and we thought this, with the economy the way it is in property sales, we thought this would be a good time to put those on the market, move those forward, and then that money could go back into the capital improvement fund, which will help to build the new township office. So what we need is the board to authorize us to contact the real estate company and let them do their due diligence as to what they think these properties would sell for, they would then come back to the board with a recommendation, and we could pick and choose which of those properties that we want to put on the market at this time.
Is it appropriate to state the acreage right now?
I'm sorry?
Is it
We
appropriate
don't-
to state the acreage?
No,
Okay.
because we'll have to decide which ones
Okay.
we want to sell, if not all of them.
Once
I think right
is-
now, the
Right.
main one that brought this forward was the fact that the developers have developed so fast, and now they've already purchased, for Riverside 5B and the Gardens of Riverside 3, and then they're done. So the 50 acres, which it backs up to part of that sub, it just seems like this would be a really good time to sell that.
Those two properties that Mark spoke of, we combined those a couple years ago, so
Mhm.
they're now one parcel.
Right, it was approximately a
they're-
30 and a 20, so it's a 50-acre parcel.
Yeah, what they're
It has-
selling that for is
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Yeah.
Is that
Nice.
is that the only piece of property we're talking, or are they gonna be reviewing all properties?
Well, the three I was thinking was that one, we have one off of Gage Road that's landlocked, somebody's interested in that. I told him that it would be a process, and it's been about, a few months, since I talked to him. And then we have three in Great Lakes,
I believe we
did we, I
combined
couldn't
those
remember
two,
if we did that,
because
yeah.
they were very small parcels. I believe we
Yes.
combined those three. It's also the topography, it's a fairly steep decline from the road down to Spring Lake,
Mhm.
but it does have lake frontage.
Yes.
Yeah, those lots in Great Lakes subdivision are
Make us
20
some money.
feet wide.
They were platted prior to probably any zoning ordinances.
Right.
I believe that, yes.
There's no way a platting like Great Lakes would be approved today.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, roads and plat.
I think it was basically platted as a resort originally. It was intended to be a resort.
20 feet was enough to put your tent.
Right,
Yeah.
or a small,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a summer cabin.
Mm-hmm.
It was done back in the 30s, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So we just brought this to the board so that we can authorize us to send it to
Mhm.
the real estate, and then we'll come back with a presentation that'll show how much money we
We
have into
spent.
each property through the tax sales or whatever, and then how much they feel they could be sold for, and we'll make the decision as to what to put on the market. So the chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Winchester, is there support?
Sport,
Was that trustee Freeman?
yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm not, you guys sound enough alike when you just say support, I'm not always sure unless I'm looking at you. Is there any more discussion?
How many realtors we're gonna propose or ask to quote?
Well,
Give us a present,
the
whatever.
township board back in the September 16th meeting of 2015, Treasurer Freeman moved to approve Berkshire Hathaway Realtors, Dennis, is it Nice?
Niece.
To handle real estate sales for Holly Township. Trustee Ruth supported the motion. A roll call vote was taken, and it passed 3-1. So,
it's Berkshire Hathaway.
yeah, unless you want to
No.
do something different, this is on the books. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will go to public comment now. Again, public comment, members of the public can address the board. Once recognized by the supervisor, comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Who would like to be up for public comment? Mr. Love.
John Love, 200 North Saginaw. Well, you talked about some of the problems with maintenance. I have a picture here of a couple of problems on the Township Hall. One of them is the cracked window. I guess we can't get it fixed because you can't get anybody to fix a window. The other one is the skylight, where the sill has broken off on one side, and it's attached by the tail, and it's just laying on the roof. If you look at the other side, you can see where that same sill is existing, where it's a black line of rotting wood that's exposed behind it. With the storms that we have, there's a concern that I have is that it'll blow off and hit somebody in the sidewalk right below it. But we can't fix that. I was out at the farmstead, and there's 2 windows that are gone from the south house. And I don't know, you can't get anybody to do that. I would put it on, but I would want some kind of authorization to fix the 2 broken windows, or missing windows. They're not broken, they're missing on that, so that you don't have to get involved with large amounts of insurance and so on. The other thing I have here is the park report. I went to this flying saucer golf outing that they have, where they've thrown these they're working on putting 18 holes to fly your flying saucer around in this golf deal. The one that they had this last weekend, they used the baseball diamonds because they hadn't completed installing the rest of the 18 holes that they're desirous of doing. I walked back to the scenic overlook, the Mott platform. It takes about a half hour to walk out to see that. There's no signs back there. They've plowed, destroyed some of the vegetation and clearing it, so you can't even find the trail. So if you don't know what's there, you're not going to find it. And if you manage somehow to get there, you're never going to find your way back without some exit signs anywhere along the trail. But I'm going to work on that some more with the Park Commission, but you don't want to get involved with the Park Commission. So I just wanted to show you this. I think it should just be a 9-hole deal instead of turning the whole park into this golf thing. That's my opinion on that one. Also, I'm working on trying to get a mailbox that isn't falling off for the entrance to the park. But that's not your purview because you don't get involved with the Park Commission. So I'll deal with them directly.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Mary.
I know for the board, you've seen, but you might not have seen the full situation for Hallie. So this doesn't concern just the mobile home park. It doesn't concern just the dump. It doesn't concern just the river. By groundwater, all of these areas are connected. As you can all see, here is the contaminated dump right there. Here is Rice Lake. Here is the expansion that's currently going on. All of these trees have been taken out. And here is where the channel is, where the wastewater treatment plant is now going down into the affluent from the wastewater treatment plant is at the Shiawassee River. Last night at the village meeting, Jerry.
She's not.
Okay, sorry.
Take that off.
Last night at the village meeting, they did approve to do part of what Eagle had requested, which was to, according to Jerry Walker, retest some of the wells that have already been tested. According to Kim Etheridge, who is the project manager for the dump with Eagle, she said it is also the responsibility of the village to perform a determination of where the contaminated plume is.
That was not mentioned at all, even though I had sent her email to the village board council. The other thing is that we do not have a clear determination since the 90s of the groundwater flow pattern throughout this whole area of the dump, the manufactured home park, and going down into the Shiawassee. We're unclear at this point who is responsible for that. So what I am appealing to the residents, we would be helped if we were to form, with the state of Michigan, a citizen advisory group. And if we were to do that, we could have possibly direct connection to some of the agency staff and be able to come to them directly with all of our concerns. So rather than involve, and I'm sorry, I did not realize it was $12,000 that you were having to spend to answer those questions. My intention of providing that request was so that the board themselves could talk amongst themselves as to what was happening. And I didn't realize it was going to go to the attorneys.
Well, just to clarify, the $12,000 is what we've spent since November of 2019.
I understand that.
Okay, it wasn't just those three
I
questions,
understand.
but it's been a process.
So I don't want to take up any more time. I just want to request that if there are any residents who would like to be part of a citizen advisory group, that we can try to influence what's going to happen. If you see here north of where the current expansion is, this is going to be the third phase of expansion. And you can see there are huge wetlands here. These are all trees. And the Yuns can probably tell you right now, with the way the machinery that they have taking those trees out, it's less than a minute to take out each single tree. It cuts the tree, it picks it up, it drops it into a pile in less than a minute. And this whole forest is going to be affected. They want to put over, is it 150 homes in the third expansion?
Oh, I don't
It was
know.
192, I thought.
That's for this current
Oh,
expansion.
yeah.
Either way, you know, it's too many. It's too many for this location. So that would be one thing that we could do with a citizen advisory group, is that we could start making an impact right now on how this is going to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
My name is John Ewan. I live at 15460 Falk Road. I'd like to give a first-hand report on where all the water goes from the park. From the park, and last night we were driving down Falk Road about 5 to 8 in the evening. You could still see, but the water, and this was a half an hour after the rain. So 30 minutes after the rain, the water is gushing across, you know, it's just bare ground. It's going into that like 24-inch culvert going under Falk Road. I know you guys kind of know all this. Mm-hmm. That culvert, by the way, is going to get plugged because all that silt. I was riding my bicycle today going home, and I went down there and looked. That thing's going to get plugged, and then that water's all going to back up even more into the park. But anyway, our home is situated from that culvert a good half mile north on Falk. And we have that the water goes under that culvert. It goes, we have standing water now all summer. You know, years ago in the spring with the snow melt and everything, you had a little bit of water, you know, you could see water in the woods. But as soon as the warm weather comes, it dries up and everything. We have standing water now everywhere. That property that's directly across from that culvert, I don't know if that's village property or if that's private property right there, but that's just a wasteland.
That's the dump.
It is the dump, but I don't know how far the dump property goes, but anyway, then it goes behind everybody's backyards. I understand there's Falk Road has water on it all the time now. There's driveways that are flooded. I understand some of the residents have flooded basements now. My dad was an engineer, and when I look at this, for that whole big park, one 24-inch culvert and that afterthought ditch that they dug about halfway, they dug that big ditch. I mean, that was good engineering, or even, mediocre. I mean, my question is where is all the water going to go? You know, if they keep building and they are ripping off a whole section of woods now, where is all this water going to go? And we're at the far end. We live a good half mile or more up Falk Road, and behind us are huge swamps, and that's the final resting place of the water. I went back in our woods this summer because I have a little dirt bike trail that I like to ride around, and I have to clear off branches and stuff like that. And it was like the day after one of those fairly big rains, and I've been in the woods, for 30 years in these woods. There was evidence of like a small tsunami. You can tell. You can tell when water just rushes across a big area. The little twigs collect and the silt collects, and you can just kind of tell. And I looked in the woods, and like the whole woods, had like this mini tsunami, and I know they're going to build more. They're tearing off more ground, so the water doesn't have anything to soak into. And I guess where is all this going to go? And I know you guys are tired of Holly Hills. I mean, I get it, but I've lived there 30 years. I practically built my house with my own two hands, and friends and relatives. I'm not moving anywhere. I've got water now rushing down Falk Road like I've never had before, and it goes across my front yard and down, and it's trying to get to the swamp. I've got erosion now that I've never had. I'm really worried about all this water, and I know. I guess I'm up here just to make myself feel better, but it's a lot of water. 30 minutes after the rain, there is still water gushing out of that it's about a 24-inch culvert. It's not that big. I thought originally it was like a big one, but it's only about this big. And 30 minutes after the rain, the water is just shooting out of there. And it has to go somewhere. And it's going in people's basements. It's going in their driveways, in their yards. Their gardens are ruined. I don't know how this ever got passed. It's that mobile home commission or whatever. I don't know how they could ever pass this with one 24-inch culvert and then a ditch as an afterthought that was dug. I don't get it. I was a school teacher. I was not a engineer, but it just seems it's going to get worse. The water, and I know we've had some hard rains this year, but it can, we have hard rains. So my woods never did dry out. It's kind of a low woods anyways, but usually by July, beginning of July, it dries up back there, and I can ride the dirt bike back there. but it still has never dried out. It's muddy, it's wet, there's just water everywhere. And does anybody know, does the park, as they progress with the park, is there any like water retention ponds planned, or is there anything like that? Does anybody know?
So when we're done with public comment, I'll make a comment in general
Okay.
to help.
But that's, I guess I needed to get up here to make myself feel better, because I don't know where it's going. It's just thousands and thousands of gallons of water that are going under Falk Road in that little culvert, and it's ruining people's properties. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Is that Pat? Yeah. With the hat, it's hard to see. You're under that light.
Pat Beanie, 210 Franklin Street. Something occurred to me when I'm listening. We're past the point. I understand you're not going to do anything. I got that. But what I'm hearing from the residents last night, and there were residents who kind of left the village meeting because of the flooding that was going on Falk Road. That brings me to the thought here. Mr. Cullis, you seem to have a good relationship with the road commission. You had them out at the farmstead helping out with their future plans there. I think it would be appropriate to bring the road commission, bring them together in a public meeting, and have them take a look out there and see what's happening out there. Because at this point in time, it's a shame, but we're not stopping anything. So they have to live with it. And, I think at this time we should use that. That is something that I think, with your connections there, I think you should definitely bring together these parties and see what can be done. Because they do have to live with that. And it's horrible. I was out helping clean a lady's house out, and she's closer to East Holly Road, and it was horrendous. And the day before, I tried going up Falk Road to see what was going on. I don't know how it was for you, Mary, last night. You went out after the village meeting and that, but there's times there you don't want to be driving on that road. These people are going to have a hard time getting back to their house, with the rain. And like they said, it's not that uncommon to get heavy rains. And regardless of where we think about climate change or anything else, let's face it, people, we've seen more and more storms. It's been weather the last few years, and it seems to be consistent. So, and I do believe the road commission could be a big help to these people. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else for public comment? Jacob?
Just going to take this down real quick before I even have to begin to fight with it. Jacob Crevier, 507 Ash Street. I just had a few things I wanted to talk about tonight. The first was I think it's a pretty simple request, but it has to do with the agenda and how it's listed online. There's a handful of issues with the Holly Township website right now, broken links, that when you go to click the agenda, it just loads you back to the township member board list, I guess you could say. I tried to access it throughout the week. I'm not sure if you just recently posted it in the last 24 hours, but I was having that issue last night. I just know with today's agenda it was pretty small, but when we got like bigger agendas, it's a lot nicer to be able to read through it before you come, because then you can shorten stuff up if you have to speak. So my basic request is, if you guys can't find time to either appropriate money for more funding for web design or anything, just to try to take a screenshot of it and even post it on several of the Facebook groups at least a week ahead of time, and those will circulate and make the rounds for people who are tech savvy, and then they'll get passed to people who aren't, who tend to come to these. Pat Feeney did a great presentation. He had somebody come into the Parks Board meeting a couple weeks ago and do a presentation on upgrading Village, Township, and the Parks Board website. I know that might be pricey to have a professional do it, but I've also been floating around some questions with folks that I used to work with personally, because I used to do computer and cell phone repair and a lot of software work. So I've been looking for web designers. If you guys are interested in it, I understand because it's a government website, you might want a little bit more credentials with it. But at the same time, getting the work done freelance is a lot cheaper than a big company, and you'll still get the same quality of work 9 times out of 10. The second thing I had is just a brief question. I'm not sure if this would go to you guys or not, but I'm not sure who's in charge of the Carl Richter building or the library if you wanted to book out a room or something. But I've seen a lot of issues in town lately with brain drain at some of the businesses. It's in the village and it's in the township where places are having a hard time hiring workers. And especially this time of year, a lot of kids are going away to college. And I had this idea to maybe hold workshops for CLEP exams, their college level exam placement tests, where you can test out of college courses. And pretty much the longer we can keep folks in town and advancing their education is the longer we can keep business in town. We won't see a lot of businesses lose folks around September if we can keep folks in town for that first year. And that will save students thousands of dollars. I've done it myself, and it's great. But I would like to, I don't know, attempt to schedule some type of presentation for you guys and even the village as well, if that's something that I can do. And then pass around information, because I have no problem spending 2 nights a week saving kids thousands of dollars, you know, not making the mistakes I made with student loans to help the area, you know. And then the last thing I had, and I'll be brief too, it was pertaining to Falk Road. I'm not asking you guys to storm the beaches of Normandy. I'm not asking you guys to spend another $12,000 in lawyer fees over the course of 3 years. But I understand there's some issues with you guys worried about overstepping your bounds as board members or trustees. However, you don't have bounds as American citizens when your neighbors are in trouble. All I'm asking is to maybe consider scheduling a night that is solely focused on the issue on Falk Road and having members of the community come in and brainstorm ideas to either take the issue to Lansing or take the issue to the Mobile Homes Commission, where the more people we can get in a room who are dedicated to it, even if we have to bus to Lansing and stand out in front of these people's offices. I know you know Ruth Johnson, she's been working on it on the side. I haven't really heard much from Mike Muller as the local rep, but with these types of folks, if you don't get in their face about it, if you don't get, I'm not saying ugly, but if you don't make a scene about it, you're not going to get anything done. And from what I gathered, the township doesn't have a lot of money, the village doesn't have a lot of money, so I don't see anybody who's going to be able to divest those funds to eventually clean up what needs to be done on Falk Road, because everyone's too busy arguing about it because nobody has enough money. But if we take it to the state, who we pay thousands in taxes to each year, they're just as culpable for the rest of us as long as they're pulling money out of my paycheck. At least that's the way I view it. We might actually get something done. And all it will take is one of your guys' afternoons. It won't take anything else. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? You've already been up, Mary. No one else? All right, then before did you have something you want to bring up? Before I go to adjournment, I wanted to address a couple things. I saw the post that was on social media regarding this whole topic, and the things that don't get mentioned in those posts, and specifically to Jacob, we have been to Lansing. Ruth Johnson had a meeting where we had Mike Mueller in the room, we had Ruth in the room, we had Laura in the room. Laura is the overseer for the Michigan Mobile Home Commission. We had the Oakland County Health Department. We had Eagle. Everybody was in that room, and we met. And Ruth Johnson dictated testing and things that she wanted done, and she wanted them done in a timely fashion. And you're right, when they said we don't have the funding for that, she simply said, find it, work with my office, and it happened. And that's what got us to where we are. We have, Karen's tried to make several appointments with the Michigan Mobile Home Commission. To the gentleman over here, when a developer comes into Holly Township and wants to develop a piece of property, he goes before a planning commission. The township engineers look at the development, they meet with the planning commission, the development gets approved. When they start building it, the township engineers go out on site to guarantee that they're building it according to the plans that they dictate. Michigan is the only state that has a mobile home commission. When we were in that meeting, mobile home commission representatives were there, and they said quite simply to both Senator Johnson, to Representative Mueller, and everyone else sitting in that room at that time in the village of Holly was represented, we were there. They simply said, if the health department signs off, the road commission signs off, we're going to approve it. And according to them, The overseer for that project is the mobile home community's own engineer. He signs off on the plans. We don't like that at all. I don't like to ever see us lose local authority over projects, but it's what we're stuck with. And you have to take the argument there. We've been there. I wanted to respond quickly. You asked about Carl Richter. That is belongs to the school district, and they oversee how the building is used. The library is a separate library board, so you would have to go to a library board meeting.
I'll just write this down as you're talking about.
Yep.
Can I ask a quick question in response? It'll be brief, I promise.
Well, that or you can ask me after the meeting.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, but I did want to answer those couple of questions. We are out there. I've been on Falk Road. Every time they call, I've been out there dark at night. That water that runs over the road, I'm familiar with where you're talking. It's taken the silt fences down. There's that 24-inch culvert. That big storm we had June 26th, I think it was, it washed out the whole hill. And the road commission came and put it back. And we are aware of it. And we have rang all the bells and notified everybody that's supposed to. I was out there today with the road commission, as a matter of fact, looking at that, and over on Tucker Road. And we do have a request in. It is currently, we put it in with Alyssa Slotkin because she lives in our community and lives right over there by Tucker Road. She worked it out so that it is now at Senator Stabenow's office. We have put in a request. We worked it out with the township engineers. It's a $1.2 million grant that we're asking from these federal funds, specifically for the drainage issues we have in the township. And we have photographs of many of them. They're not just on Falk Road. They're not just on Tucker. They're up on Mitchell Road. They're all over the township. We've got a lot of water in this community, and we've got drainage issues in several places. One of the reasons North Holly Road got rebuilt was to respond to some of those drainage problems. So we are aware of it. We are working on it. And it is frustrating. I won't lie. It's very frustrating when you get answers to questions you didn't ask, and they don't answer the questions you do ask. And we have to deal with it all. So is there anything else to come before the board? Then I will adjourn our meeting at 7:16.
I want to say something before you all go. Currently, the drain commissioner has supervision over the drain. There's other counties that have drain commissioners.